Hello, everybody. Very happy Dashera to all of you. Vijayadashmi today. So we were, before we broke off last weekend, we were not here. We are on the topic of liberation, because the disciple has now asked a question, what exactly is liberation? And he says that since ignorance is beginningless, it probably is endless as well. That is what his doubt is. So the Guru replies that the question is good, but he says that yes, an avidya or ignorance is beginningless. And why is it beginningless? Because it begins with Brahman, and Brahman is beginningless. It's like saying how, like, when did I have this power of seeing? From which day? From my birth. Like when I began, then the power of seeing also began. Now Brahman is beginningless. So if ignorance, prakriti, maya, avidya, if they all began with Brahman, if they are with Brahman, then they also are beginningless. And that is correct, they are beginningless. However, the difference between Brahman and avidya or maya is that maya ends and Brahman never ends. So there has to be an end to this ignorance, and we cannot also call it as beginningless. We cannot call it as having a beginning. We cannot not call it beginningless. So if ignorance had a beginning, there's one of the logical reasons is, we are saying that ignorance ends when knowledge arises, when knowledge comes. What knowledge is this? This knowledge is the oneness between the self, Jiva, and Brahma. Okay, so when this knowledge comes, ignorance ends. If we were to say that ignorance has a beginning, then the doubt would be there that, oh, if knowledge ends, then will ignorance begin again? There'll be that sort of a doubt. And that cannot be, because once knowledge arises, it never goes away. You have to understand that once the realization happens that there is the oneness between Jiva and Brahma, that realization never can leave that realized master. It doesn't. It is not a memory. It is not. It's like, it's like, do I ever forget, or do we ever forget that I'm a woman, I'm a female? Can I even, do I have to look in the mirror and say, oh yeah, I am a female? It's like inherent in us that I know that I am a woman. That way, this realized master knows that he's Brahman, that he's none other than Brahman. Now, once that realization comes, it can never end. And because it can never end, ignorance can never begin. And that's why we say ignorance has no beginning. It has no beginning, and it has an end, and it will never begin again. It can never begin again. That's why it is beginningless. And the idea of liberation, being bound is only a thought. That's why the Guru is explaining that this bondage, we have to think, is the bondage really real? Because he's saying that how can liberation ever happen? Because ignorance will never end. So the Guru is saying, think, is this ignorance really real? What is ignorance? What is ignorance? Ignorance is thinking that I am the body, mind, and intellect. That is ignorance. When I consider myself to be the body, mind, and intellect, when I consider myself to be the upadhis, when I consider myself to be this matter equipment, that is bondage. And now think, body, mind, intellect itself are not real. It's matter. Now I am thinking something which is not there only. So how can that thought be real? And that's why, how can bondage be real? That is the question. If bondage was really real, what is really real? Once again, I remind you, really real is that which never changes in the 3 periods of time. Vedantic definition of real is that which never changes in the three periods of time. Now, if you use this definition, can you claim that your body, mind, and intellect has not changed at all since your birth, since the birth of the body? Nobody can claim that. Nobody can claim. So that is why this matter equipments, they do not fall under the definition of really real. So what is not really real only can end, because if it was really real, it can never end. That's why Brahman can never end. Why? Because it is real. It is the same in the past. It was the same in the past. It is the same in the present, and it will remain the same in the future. So that's why it can never be negated. But what is not there only can be negated. See, when I walk in and I see a snake, that snake was never there. Was the snake really there in the corner? Always it was the rope. But I considered it to be a snake, and therefore that ignorance of snake will definitely go away, because the snake was never there. It was never real. Therefore, this point is very, very important, very subtle, that bondage is not real. It is only a thought. It is a notion. It is a feeling. And thoughts and feelings and notions are all false. Why? Because the mind is false. The mind itself is the one who is saying that I think that I, the small I, is false. Why is it false? Because it is a reflection of the pure consciousness that is saying it. The reflection has no real reality. Why? Because it is a dependent reality. It is dependent on the medium, and it is dependent on the object. It has no real reality. Now this ego, which has no real reality, is saying that I am the body. How can that I am the body be real? How can it be real? Very, very subtle point. Think about it. If you have any questions, ask. Okay, so that is the part that now the Guru is explaining. And now we were on 202. My bookmark is on 202. Now he says, okay, how do I get rid of this bondage? That is what the Guru is now going to explain. Vinivrittir bhavet tasya samyak jnanena nanyatha brahmatmaikatva vidnyanam samyak jnanam shrutermatam. The superimpositions will cease to function at the dawn of right knowledge and in no other way. According to the scriptures, realization of the identity of the soul and Brahman is right knowledge. Okay, so the antidote for this bondage, which is a thought, bondage is only a thought. There is no real, is anybody as physically, am I bound anywhere? No, I'm not. I only think that I am the body. That is the bondage. So how do you remove that bondage? It is ignorance. To remove one thing, you need the opposite of it. Opposite. So it is ignorance. What is opposite of ignorance is knowledge. Knowledge alone is opposite of ignorance. And therefore, knowledge alone can remove ignorance. If it is a dark room, and in Atma Bodh, Bhagwan Shankaracharya has given this example, if it is a dark room, if you keep saying, I will sweep the darkness out, I will sweep the darkness out, can you do that? Can you take the darkness away by sweeping it? No. You have to only light a little lamp, a little match stick, and the darkness will be gone. Because light is opposite of darkness, karma, action is not. So when he says no other way, karma is that. It's karma. So this bondage can be removed by knowledge and knowledge alone, no other way. Karma can never remove this bondage, this ignorance. Bondage is ignorance. Karma can never remove ignorance. Why? Because karma is a child of ignorance. Karma is an effect of ignorance. So the child cannot take out its parent. Karma is born out of ignorance. It cannot take out its cause. The effect cannot remove the cause. And that's why no other way, the other way is karma. This is for the karma kandins who think that liberation is possible by doing karma. It is not possible. It is not possible. It is karma is required. But final liberation can only come with knowledge. Okay. Tadatmanatmano samyak vivekenaiva siddhyati tato viveka kartavyah pratyagatma sadatmano. This realization comes only through right discrimination made between the self and the not self. That is why one must strive to discriminate between the individual self within and the eternal self everywhere. So even in the earlier one verse, he said, Samyak Jnanam Shruter Matam. Shruti Mata, opinion. It is the opinion of Shruti that this is Samyak. Samyak is correct knowledge. So what is correct knowledge is I am Brahman, and what is incorrect knowledge is I am BMI. And I am BMI is bondage, and I am Brahman is liberation. Okay, and I am BMI, is it real? If it was really real, it would never go away, but it is not really real. Okay, and that is the opinion of the scriptures. This is what the scriptures are saying. And now here it says, Tadatma, therefore, this realization, what realization? Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, will come by Samyak Vivek. Samyak means very well done. Samyak is very well done. So very well done Viveka. Viveka, discrimination. Highest definition of discrimination is the discrimination between self and not self. And that is exactly what we are doing in this text. That's why the name is Vivekachudamani. Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. So Viveka is first. First qualification of an adhikari is Viveka. Unless you know what is right and what is wrong, how will you choose the right? How will you choose the right? Yes. So that's why we have to do this Vivek, he says. And Tato Viveka Kartavya. Kartavya, strive. It is your duty. If you want liberation, you have to start with discrimination. You have to understand what is not self and what is self. And you also have to understand that you're the, like you discriminate and then say, okay, I'm the not self. Then that is not correct knowledge either. This world is there. Now we'll see even in chapter 15. This world is meant for me to enjoy. Why else would have God created the world? If you come to this sort of a conclusion, then your inquiry is wrong. It is in the wrong direction. You have to study the world. This is what chapter 15 Bhagavan will do. He will explain the world, then he will desuperimpose. So this superimposition has to be taken away. That desuperiimposition will happen only with Viveka. It cannot happen by karma. But Viveka will only arise in a purified mind. And that purified mind has to come from karma alone. Karma converted to karma yoga will give a purified mind, which will give clarity in the intellect, which will give sharp discrimination, which will lead to intense vairagya, dispassion. And then you're going to do the right thing. Choose Brahman over the world, over the body, mind, intellect. Body, mind, intellect also, please remember, is the world. I always think this is me and the world is around me. No, the body is also the world. It falls under world. Why? Because it's inert. It is matter. It is matter. Nothing other than matter. Now he gives an example. Jalam pankavadantyantam pankapaye jalam sfutam yatha bhati tathatmapi dosha bhave sfuta prabha. Water which is extremely muddy appears as transparent water when the mud has been removed. So too, the Atman manifests its clear luster when the impurities have been removed. This example is given of water and muddy water, but we have seen this example in sun and clouds. The clouds are covering the sun and all you have to do is remove the clouds. The mud is making the water muddy, look muddy. All you do is remove the mud. The water is always clear. The water is always transparent. In its pure form, it is transparent. It is tasteless, colorless, odorless. So if it is looking brown or any kind of color, then it's mixed with something. You remove that mixture, you remove that impurity. So from the mind, all you do is remove the impurities, and the divinity which is within you will shine forth. You don't have to look for the divinity anywhere. It is with you all the time, 24/7, 365. The divinity is there. Okay. We have no time to pay attention to it. We have no time. Why? Because we are extroverted. We are constantly looking at the world. And is there not at least a little bit of reality in the world? Little bit, let me enjoy, little bit. No. When I was reading this verse, I remembered in Dubai, they actually desalinize the ocean water. They don't have pure water of their own. Everything is oil under the ground, and then there is ocean, right? So it's all salty water. So they have huge plants which are removing the salt from the water. So they have plenty of fresh water supply. All they're doing is removing the salt. All they're doing is removing it. That's what we have to do. All the salt from our mind, the impurities, if we remove, that's it. No problem. Then there'll be clarity. Okay. Asannivruttau tu sadatmana sfutam pratitiretasya bhavet pratichah tato nirasa karaniya eva sadatmana sadvahamadi vastunah. This very individual self is clearly realized as the eternal self when the unreal ceases to exist. So one must strive to completely remove the ego, etc., from the eternal self. Now, when the unreal ceases to exist, please understand, ceases to exist doesn't mean that it is really existing and then it will just disappear into thin air. That is not what is meant by ceases to exist. Ceases to exist means in your mind, it ceases to exist as a reality. Right now, I think the body is real. My mind is real. That's why I get hurt. If somebody calls me stupid, I'm angry. I feel insulted. And I think this world is real. And that's why I want to improve the world. And I want to do so much work for so many people. And this and that and all that. So that importance that I have put into the world, that has to be, that is where the start is. That has to be reduced. Because the more I think it is real, the more important it will be to me. Think about it. And when it is very, very important to me, I'm going to work for it, right? Either to obtain it, either to improve it, either to help somebody else. And when I can't help, then I'm upset. So this ceases to exist. Please understand, it is not going anywhere. The world is not disappearing, is not going to, it hasn't disappeared since whenever, beginningless, and here also it is not going to end. But in your mind, it can end. That is possible. In your mind, the reality that you have given to the world can cease to exist. The reality can cease to exist. The world will never cease to exist. That's why a man of realization sees exactly the same things that we see, but in his mind, his idea of that world is totally different from my idea of the world. It's only in the mind. It's only in the mind, nothing outside. So the very individual self is clearly realized as this. So the self in me is this jiva, this ego, which says I am the body. That same ego has to realize I am not the body, I am the pure consciousness. Same ego. There's the same ego. There are not two entities that one says I'm the body and the other one is saying I'm Brahman. No, there's nothing like that. There is only one. That jiva is there. The jiva bhava, I told you. What is the jiva? Jiva, when he thinks he is the body, that is jiva bhava. When the jiva thinks I am pure consciousness, is Brahman. That's So one must strive to completely remove the ego, etc.
Yeah, Ji. Question. When you say that ego has to say that it is Brahman, that's also thought.
Yes.
That's also thought.
It is a thought. But what is in the womb of that thought?
The intention.
No. What is the object of that thought?
Brahman.
Okay. And what is Brahman? Infinite.
The union.
Infinite.
Infinite.
It is infinite. Brahman is infinite. So what happens is when the ego starts thinking Aham Brahmasmi, in the seat of meditation, it is the ego which is meditating, Aham Brahmasmi, what remains is only Aham, and even that Aham Brahmasmi disappears. So Aham, big I. That is what happens in the seat of meditation. When your mind is completely focused on the thought, you need a thought to remove the thought. What is the first thought? I am Jiva, I am body. So that is one thought. Now you take another thought. You take another thought. Aham Brahmasmi thought. And Ramakrishna Paramahansa has given this example. There is a thorn which is stuck in your foot. You take another thorn, you pull that thorn out from your, then do you keep that other thorn? Throw that also. That is what happens. There is a thorn, I am body. Take another thorn, Aham Brahmasmi. Remove the I am body thorn. Aham Brahmasmi will disappear on its own. Aham Brahmasmi will disappear. What will remain is only Aham. Because in the womb of that thought is infinity. As I think, shall I become. So shall I become. So when I keep thinking I'm infinity, I will become infinity. I will become infinite. I will merge with the Supreme. It's like the salt doll. The salt doll wanted to gauge the depth of the ocean. So she jumped into the ocean, and before she could reach the depth, she became the ocean. That is what will happen. You need a thought to remove thought, but what thought? What all thoughts we have are finite. I want this house, I want computer, I want spouse, I want money, I want job. All are finite. So your thought is finite, you will remain finite. And all of those thoughts are for the body, which is false in the first place. Okay. So that's why, so one must try to completely remove the ego. The reflection has to understand that I have no real reality without the object. Right now, the reflection, which is the ego, thinks I am very real, and I am 5'4", and I am a female, and I am a mother, and I am a president of this, and I am a teacher, and I am this friend, and I am an enemy, and I am these, that, so many hundreds of things, millions of things. I'm sentimental, I'm good, I did so much work for this and that, and everything. And nobody said thank you to me. Nobody praised me. That's what the ego is doing. That's what the ego is doing. So we have to recognize that this is coming from the ego. Just today, somebody said to me, like, oh, my manager said, like, what will I do without you? And I said, you know what? Nobody is indispensable in this world. Nobody. And if you think that your company is going to fall apart if you quit, think again. Think again. Please think again. So it's coming from ego. It is coming from ego. So that's why so remove the ego, etc., from the eternal self. So that ego will recognize itself to be Ishvara, Brahman. Okay, and don't take Ishvara meaning Brahman, because the Jiva can never become Ishvara. Because when Jiva merges, Ishvara also merges, because Ishvara depends on Jiva. The totality depends on the individuality. If the individuality merges, the totality cannot remain. It's like there is a team leader. Why is he called a team leader? Because he has a team under him. Now the team say quits, the whole team quit. What? Are you a team leader? Your whole team has quit, gone. What are you? You're just an individual then. So you also merge. The team leader will merge with the team. When the team goes away, the team leader will go. The individual will stay, but the team leader will go. So that way, this Ishvara is a team leader. So when the individual jivas merge into pure consciousness, Ishvara merges at the same time. Ato nayam paratma syad vijnanamaya shabda bhak vikaritva jadatva cha parichinnatva hetutah drishyatvat vyabhicharitvat anna nityo nitya ishyate. Annana nityo nitya ishyate. For the following reasons. See, we are also talking about the causal body, right? Don't forget that. What is ignorance? Ignorance is the causal body, the V in the chart. In the chart, the V below the O, that is what we're talking about. So it says, for the following reasons, we are in the intellectual sheath. I'm sorry. We are in the intellectual sheath. So for the following reasons, the intellectual sheath, which we have so far spoken of, cannot be the supreme self. It is subject to change. These are the reasons. It is inert and insentient. It is limited. It is an object of the senses, and it is not constant. A mortal, perishable thing indeed cannot be said to be the immortal, imperishable Atman. This is the Viveka. This is the discrimination. We are doing the discrimination between the 5 koshas and Atman, okay, and the Vijnanamaya koshas. Because the ego is in the Vijnanamaya kosha, that's why the ignorance is there. Because where is the ignorance? The ego is the one that is saying, I am body. And that is what the ignorance is. It's not a causal body. We will come into the causal body later, Anandamaya kosha. But this is the Vijnanamaya kosha. And in that Vijnanamaya kosha is the ego thought, the I thought, what is known as the I thought. And in Gurudev's words, it is the small I, or aham vritti, as Raman Maharshi would call it in Updesha. That is the aham vritti. What is aham vritti? I am, I did this, I am so and so, I am this, I am that. All this is aham vritti, the small I vritti, a thought of the small I, the ego. So the ego is subject to change. What is the ego? See, now I'm saying I'm the speaker. So when the 1 hour is over, then my ego is going to say, I am now the dinner eater. Ego changed. Then I am the sleeper. So ego changed again. So what changes cannot be the unchangeable self. The pure self is unchangeable. The pure self never says, I am sleeping, I am eating, I am talking, listening. Pure self is only a witness. It doesn't do anything. Is a non-doer, right? What is the doer is the ego. So the ego constantly changes. It is inert and insentient. Why? Because the sentiency is coming from the object, from the original object. Pure consciousness is conscious and sentient. But this reflection, it is borrowing its sentiency from the pure consciousness. So it itself, it is inert. By itself, ego is inert. It is matter, because it is matter. Okay, there is only matter and spirit. So ego also falls under matter. It is limited. Why? Because the ego is saying, I'm only 5'4". Brahman is not 5'4". Brahman is infinite. Ego is saying, I'm female. Brahman is not female, not male. Nothing. Right? So that's why this ego is limited. That's why we study in Bhagavad Gita, Nirmana. In 13 also and 15 also it will come, become nirmana. Mana is what? Limitation. Mana is, when I say I'm 5'4", I'm taller than, maybe some other people, that is man. So I have limited myself to be 5'4", but Arab scriptures are telling me, what 5'4"? You are pervading the whole universe. How can you be 5'4"? So that is man, that is limitation. So this is what the ego is doing. Ego is saying, no, you are only 5'4", you are only here, you're not there, you're not in India, you're here, you're in this room, you're not even in the bedroom. That is what the ego is saying. I'm sitting here in front of the computer. I am not watching TV. I am not in the bedroom. I'm not in the kitchen, but I am. As the pure consciousness, I am here as well as I'm there, as well as I'm in the entire universe. So that's why ego is limited. And that's why it cannot be. It is an object of the senses, is it not? Doesn't the ego get hurt? Don't I know that my ego is hurt, or my ego is very happy when somebody says, ah, ha, ha, how good work you did? So it is an object of the senses. The mind knows that the ego is happy or sad, whatever. And it is not constant. Today it is happy, tomorrow it is sad, then it is jealous, then it is angry, then it is, compassionate, then it is sentimental. A mortal, perishable thing indeed cannot be said to be the immortal, imperishable Atman. That is the main and the only difference. That the Atman is imperishable, unchangeable, sentient. Matter is perishable, insentient, and changing. And that is the Viveka that we have to have. Now, the reason we don't have that Viveka is because we think that matter is permanent. We think that matter is real. We think that this world is real, this body is real, my mind is very real. That's why I get very hurt when somebody says something. Those things have to be toned down. And it'll help when we get hurt. What will help is to know that who is getting hurt. So if we think, that's what Raman Maharshi has given this thing. Who is the one that is getting hurt? This thought must come right away. It'll help. It will help a great deal. Because when we have this much background in spiritual studies, when this thought comes, who is getting hurt or who is feeling happy also? Huh? Not that when you get happy, ah, ha, ha, ha. No. Who is being happy? Ego. What is ego? False. I am the pure self. I don't get happy. I don't get hurt either. Put yourself in the position of the self. Put yourself deliberately. In the beginning, it has to be deliberate. There is no other way. Deliberately, you have to think what is getting hurt is the ego and devalue the ego. Why do I get hurt? I will never talk to you again. Kindergarten, we did that. Sometimes we do it as adults also. That means what have I done? I have strengthened my ego. I have put so much value on my ego. You insulted me. Now I will never speak with you. So much value is given to ego, which is false. That's why devalue the ego. Everything should be given 100% discount. Ego, body, mind, world, 100%. Not important. Let go. Because we will not let go if we think it is important. We say, no, with teenagers, when we raise children, when they become teenagers, they give, that's what advice was given to me. It says there are certain things you have to let go. They're not important. Let go. Because you have to pick your battles with the teenager and then fight those to the end. Don't let go halfway there. But some things totally ignore. Room is dirty, shut the door, don't say anything. But some battles you must fight. As spiritual seekers, for us, everything has to be devalued. That's the only way. There's no other way. As long as we continue to think that little, liberation is not possible. Now we go to the Anand. Anybody has any questions so far? All clear? All right. Now we are going into the Anandamaya Kosha, which is the V in the chart. Ananda pratibimba chumbita tanur vrittistamo drumbhita syadanandamaya priyadi gunakaha sweshtartha labhodayah punyasyanubhave vibhati kriti namananda rupa swayam sarvo nandati yatra sadhu tanu tanur brahmatra prayatnam vina. The Anandamaya Kosha, bliss sheath, is that modification of nascence which is kissed by a reflection of the Atman, which is bliss absolute. Pleasure, etc. are its attributes, and it springs into expression when an object agreeable to it presents itself. The fortunate feel it spontaneously when the fruits of their good actions manifest. Every being without the least effort derives great joy from it. This is a very important verse. It's a little bit complicated to understand. So, Ananda Pratibimba Chumbita. This Chumbita is to Chumbana is to kiss. So kissed by reflection. Who is kissed by reflection? Modification of nascence. So what is a modification? Vritti. It is a thought. So let me start with an example. See the V in that chart that we see. Most of you have seen it now. That V is vasanas. Okay, another name for it is avidya. Nascence is avidya, by the way. Nascence is avidya. Ignorance. Another word is deep sleep. So these are all synonyms. Another word is maya also. From the totality point of view, that V is called maya. So these are all the various names. Now, the question arises that if it is a deep sleep state, then where is this reflection exactly happening? See, we have said that the reflection happens in thought, and thought is subtle, ego, and it is in the Vijnanamaya kosha, right? So now this we have transcended, we have gone beyond the Vijnanamaya into the Vasana level. Now there also a reflection is happening. Where is the vritti? Where is that reflection exactly happening? So what in deep sleep, we have always said that deep sleep, there is no thoughts. Okay, because we know that is our experience, that we never thought anything. In dream, there are thoughts, but in deep sleep, there are no thoughts. But the thing is that thought doesn't completely disappear. And the example is, if there is a midday bright sunlight, okay, imagine a very bright sunlight. You can't imagine it in Vancouver. You have to be on the equator or India or Bombay or somewhere like that. So in that 12 o'clock midday sun, you light a little candle and now you put it out there. Will you be able to see the candle even? Okay. So like that candle, there is this vritti, thought, which is in deep sleep. Understand? Which cannot be seen. Why? Because it is covered by, like how the candle is covered by this bright sunlight. In deep sleep, it is covered by ignorance, darkness. It cannot be seen. That vritti. Candle is light. Don't imagine there is a light inside us. Not light. There is a thought. It is there, but it cannot be experienced. Just like a candle put in the midday sun cannot be seen. This part has to be understood. This is very subtle. Now, in that subtle vritti, it is very subtle. Okay, and in that subtle vritti, this ananda pratibimba chumbita means the pure consciousness reflects in that as well. Okay, that is the first thing to be understood here. So when this vritti is known as antarmukha, inner, because why? Because we don't see it at all. Even in deep sleep, we don't know it is there. See, there is in the mind, there is also vritti is thought, by the way. Vritti is thought. When a thought comes in the mind, are we not aware of it right away? I'm happy, I'm sad, whatever thought it is. I want to eat, I'm hungry, I'm angry, whatever thought is there. So this thought, which is also subtle, why subtle? Because other people can't see it. But I can see my own thought at the level of the mind. That is there are levels of subtlety. So that thought which is in the mind, which I can see, is a bahirmukha thought. Bahirmukha, it is facing outward. So I can see it. Whereas this thought, which is in the vasana level, is antarmukha. It is inside. In that reflection is happening as well. Okay. Now, in that antarmukha vritti is actually the joy content, the ananda, Sat, Chit and Ananda, that Ananda content of the pure consciousness is in that Antarmukha Vritti. It is not in the Bahirmukha Vritti, which mistake I make all the time. I think that I am happy and that happy thought is in my mind. So now let us see how the happy thought generates in the mind. This is the analysis. This verse is the analysis of that. Anandamaya Kosha. It is called Anandamaya Kosha. Why is it called Anandamaya Kosha? Ananda is what? Bliss. Where is the bliss coming from? That bliss is coming from the pure consciousness, and that pure consciousness is reflecting in this Antarmukha Vritti, which is present in deep sleep, just like a little candle is present in the sunlight, but that little candle has no effect on the sunlight. So this thought has no effect. And that's why in deep sleep, after I wake up, I say I was very happy. During deep sleep, do I say I am happy? While I'm in deep sleep. In dream, I can say that's a Bahirmukha thought. In dream, I can feel very happy. I can feel very sad. I can feel very happy. But not in deep sleep. But when I wake up from deep sleep, I knew nothing and I was very happy. Where is that happiness coming from? See, our thing is, we think happiness is coming from outside. We have seen this before also. I get a car, new car, or a new whatever, this, that, clothes, anything that I get, and I feel happy. And what do I think? I am happy because I got this object. So now we will understand what is this phenomena of happiness. What is happening? Previously, we have explained it in a very general fashion in Tattva Bodh and all. We explain it as the mind is very agitated. You may have heard this explanation. Now we are going to go into a more subtler explanation. I'm giving this explanation, even if you understand this much, that's fine. So the mind is very agitated, and then for something, and Gurudev always will give tea or coffee. So I get up in the morning, my mind is very agitated because I'm very used to drinking a cup of tea or coffee. So the mind is going tea, or coffee. Mind is agitated. And then there is a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and I drink it. What happens is the mind settles. It is agitated. It settles when it gets that object of desire. And we explain it like when the mind settles, the divinity from within shines forth and you feel happy. So the happiness actually comes from inside, but in my ignorance, I assign that happiness to the cup of tea or the cup of coffee. Is this point clear? Any questions?
The question is here, why is deep sleep called avidya? Because what I see that it gives you a little bit happiness, right? When we wake up in the morning, we say we had a wonderful sleep and you are relieved and happy and you feel different, like different from everything. But still it is called avidya.
Okay. So
why is it called avidya?
You tell me, in deep sleep, did you know that you were a man or a woman? Did you know that?
No.
Did you know that you were rich or poor?
No.
Did you know that you're sleeping in your house or somewhere out on the street?
I got your point, but at the same time, when you say we are merged with Brahman, we lose everything else. We lose Maya, we lose that what we are.
We are merged with Brahman, but do you know that? That is the point.
No, when we are realized, as you said,
we are realized we are merged with Brahman, but we have the knowledge that we are Brahman. That's why deep sleep and Samadhi very close.
Okay.
In Samadhi, I am awake and aware that I'm Brahman. In deep sleep, I am Brahman, but I'm not aware of it. And that's the problem. Otherwise, everybody after deep sleep would be realized in the morning. All of us, I have good sleep. So in the morning realized. That's why it is avidya. Because I don't know the external world in the deep sleep. I don't know who I am either. I don't know that I am mother, father, I'm worried, I'm rich, I'm poor, I've got debts, I've got a loan, I've won a lottery. I don't know anything external, but I also don't know that I'm Brahman. That is why it is avidya.
So it is kind of same, like I have seen many pure-hearted people, and they are really, really happy most of the time.
Yeah.
Whatever happens to them, they are indifferent, like about the wrong things or right things. And on their part, they do good. But probably that could be the reason that we don't call them realizers, or they don't call themselves realizers, because they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Just because a person is pure-hearted doesn't make him realized.
No, it doesn't. But the actions they do, and they are happy most of the time.
Yeah,
So,
they do good actions and they are happy, and they've assigned that happiness to the good action that they're doing. That is ignorance.
So they don't realize that it is something else. Okay.
Yeah. So the phenomenon of happiness has been explained so far. That is what it is. The mind is agitated for a cup of tea. The mind gets the cup of tea. The body gets the cup of tea. The mind settles down.
I know that, because you are dependent on something.
I'm not explaining to you. I'm explaining to the whole class. I'm repeating myself because you need to understand this step first before I go further. So the divinity from within shines forth. The person feels happy, and it is from within without realizing that it is from within. The happiness is assigned to the cup of tea, and the person thinks that this cup of tea has got happiness, and this is why I'm happy. Okay, fine. So the point that actually what is happening is this vritti, this thought is there. I want tea. Okay, it's a bahirmukha thought. I told you, any thought in the mind which I can see is a bahirmukha thought. This bahirmukha thought, when it actually gets its object of pleasure, in this case it is a cup of tea, what exactly happens is that vritti becomes antarmukha. It shifts. It takes a U-turn and it goes into the Anandamaya Kosha. And in that Anandamaya Kosha, Antarmukha Vritti, that pure consciousness is reflected. Because it's subtle vritti. Pure consciousness has the capability of reflection. It will reflect. This phenomena happens. This is what is happening within, which we don't realize at all. Okay, so when that bahirmukha thought, bahirmukha is what? Extroverted. The extroverted thought becomes introverted when it gets an object of its pleasure, of its liking. It got the cup of tea which it wanted. That vritti became antarmukha. That antarmukha vritti, the consciousness is reflecting, and that ananda is now coming out. This is what is actually happening. Because you have heard a bit of Vedanta, that's why I'm telling you this. I don't have to do this. I don't have to tell you this next step, but I know there are some people who will appreciate this. Those who cannot understand this, don't worry about it. Just understand that when the mind settles, when it gets its object of pleasure, the divinity from within shines forth. But this is what is happening. The bahirmukha vritti becomes antarmukha. In that antarmukha vritti, the ananda is reflected. That reflected ananda comes out and the person feels happy.
Jayaji, but this ananda is not permanent.
This ananda is not permanent because that tea is not permanent.
Right, okay. Yeah. This is just whatever we are happy about, it will stay for a little while and then it'll go away.
It will go away. But the point that is to be understood here is that ananda is not in the tea, it is coming from the pure consciousness. That is the point. All this time we have been thinking that if I have a big house, if I have a spouse, if I have a child, if I have a money, if I have bonus, if I have promotion, if I have a job, I'll be happy. So all that happiness has been assigned outside. Now you have to understand that no matter what you get outside, you wanted the job, you got it, that vritti becomes antarmukha. That happiness is coming from inside. So happiness is only inside. It is only with the pure consciousness. There is no happiness in the world. That needs to be understood. Very clearly understood. Only then the running will stop. Why is everybody running? They're running after something or the other all the time. Why? Because they think that will make them happy. Do you think anybody would run if they knew that that thing will make them sorrowful? Nobody would be running. Now, once you realize that, Are, I am only the source of happiness, why am I running? It is like, you know, the sugar cube, it seems, was running after the chocolate. Chocolate was running and sugar cube was running after it. So the person said, Cube, why are you running after the chocolate? And the sugar cube said, oh, chocolate is sweet. I want sweetness. I want sweetness from the chocolate. Are Baba, you are only the source of sweetness for the chocolate. Why are you running? That's what we are doing. We are the cube of sugar. We are the source of happiness. We are running after these inert objects. Okay.
Jayaji.
Hello.
Jayaji. Raja. Jayaji.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Correct me.
Your voice is breaking, Raj. Your video is frozen.
Yeah. Pardon?
I can't hear you. Your video was frozen.
Is it like a vasana that goes in the like a form, like a seed? It has the potential for the branches, flowers, or leaves. But when the right time comes, then the seeds sprout. So the same thing, is it right or no? That all our vasanas go in the dormant. That's why we don't feel. That's why we feel happy. We don't feel any, you know.
Are you talking about deep sleep? Because your whatever you said is breaking, so I can't. Did anybody hear?
Another question.
Huh? Now your video is frozen.
Okay, it's okay then. It's okay. Yeah.
Because sorry, Raj, because I'm not sure what you're trying to tell me or say. Vasanas are the seeds, whatever partially what I got. Yes, they are the seed. They're in seed form. When I have okay, so I don't know if this will answer your question, but what happens is, see, okay, if I have a vasana for tea, that's why I'm saying the object of pleasure for every person will be different. Suppose if there is somebody, I gave you the tea example. Suppose if somebody doesn't like tea, then this Bahirmukha Vritti will not become Antarmukha for him or her, because he doesn't have the vasana for tea. That's why I say that every person will be happy with a different object.
Oh, okay.
You understand? Yeah. So vasana has to be there. There is a vasana for tea. That is the original premise. If I have no vasana for tea, there's no question of the tea making me happy. I'm not even going to go after the tea. Even if it is readily available, I'm going to say, no, I don't want it. Okay, so that vasana has to be there for the tea. I've just given you a tea example. For somebody, it might be coffee. For somebody, it might be lassi. For somebody, it might be something else. When that vasana is there and that object comes in contact with that person, that vritti, because when I like tea, then I think what I like, I will think about it. Na? Suppose if I like some house, then constantly I'm thinking, oh, I would like to buy that house. I'd like to buy that house, whatever, you know, clothes I see, oh, I'd like that. So I have a vasana for that. That's why I'm constantly thinking. Now that object comes to me, this Bahirmukha Vritti will become Antarmukha at that point. If that vasana was not there, they might put a whole array of clothes, but I've got total dispassion. Nothing will happen.
Jayaji, this Antarmukhi thing, even for the things that we don't like, right? The consciousness is the one that tells us that you are not liking it.
Not consciousness, ego.
Oh, ego is telling
Consciousness
you.
doesn't say anything. Consciousness is the non-doer.
Non-doer. Okay. So the ego tells us that it's on, but the light, which makes ego to do it,
Is pure consciousness.
is pure consciousness. So in both cases, it is pure consciousness.
Yeah.
And in both cases, it is ego too.
Yes. The point that needs to be understood here is that there is no happiness in the objects outside.
Yeah, I got that. Okay.
I have a
Okay.
question, Jayaji.
Yeah.
So if tea is the thing that helps me get up and achieve things, then how is that bad?
We are not saying it is bad or good. We are not saying it is bad or good. We are just trying to explain where you have a thought that tea is what is making me go,
Yeah.
right? And so you're having tea. Somebody else might have a thought, it's a coffee that makes me go. Somebody else might say, oh, hot water is fine with me. It is not a question of good or bad. It is not a question of good or bad. It is a question of the phenomena that is happening.
If that motivates me to get up and kind of achieve things, right?
Yeah.
For myself, then that happiness is important for me to feel motivated.
All achievements are for happiness.
Yeah.
You have to realize that the happiness is not coming from the achievements, it is coming from inside. That's the sugar cube has to realize that sweetness is not coming from the chocolate. I already am sweet. Achievement is your chocolate. You're running after the chocolate and you feel happy. Today I got this promotion. Tomorrow I'll get that promotion. Then I'll get a bonus. Then I'll get a raise. And you think all your happiness is coming from there. And therefore you're running. Therefore you're running. Vedanta is telling us that your happiness is not, how can happiness come from an inert object? Money is inert, promotion is inert, job is inert, body is inert. How does that give you happiness? How can it give you happiness? This is Viveka. This is discrimination. So once you realize that you yourself are the source of happiness, you need, if achievement was source of happiness, how would you be happy in deep sleep? In deep sleep, what are you achieving? You don't even know who you are and you're very happy. That is an example to tell you that happiness doesn't depend on outside objects. It doesn't. We'll continue with this verse. There is a lot more. This is a very deep verse. Please think about it. Raj, please think about your question. Maybe you can write it down and then you can send it to me, or if you can type it into the chat or something, then I would hear. There is one chat. Dinesh, what chat is that? Something.
That's me.
And how will one
I
keep
just asked
oneself
that.
motivated? Yes.
Yeah.
What should motivate you or anybody is to. You can be behind anything. You can go behind anything.
Okay.
Just realize that your happiness is not dependent on that thing. We're not saying don't be motivated. Be motivated. Keep running. Just have the discrimination. Just have discrimination. Okay. All right. So we'll stop here.